Hey, folks, welcome back to another episode of Leader Talk. I'm SEAC retired John Wayne Troxell, and I have a very special guest on the show today. A very good friend of mine, former colleague, and just all around professional soldier for over 30 years. My guest today is Command Sergeant Major retired Edward A. Bell. He's a decorated service member of over 30 years, 33 to be exact. The majority of his professional stewardship has been focused on dedicated to advising, coaching, and optimizing organizational, professional, and personal performance. He has over 14 years as service as a senior enlisted leader, culminating as the United States Army's G4 Sergeant Major out of the Pentagon, where we served together when I was the SEAC at the time. He has 7 combat deployments, starting with Desert Shield, Desert Storm. He's been to Iraq. He's been to Afghanistan. He's done it all. He is married, and he has 5 sons. And right now, he currently serves as the Director of Government Affairs for the South Carolina Department of Veterans Affairs. So let's give a good warm welcome to Command Sergeant Major retired Ed Bell. Ed, how are you?
Hey, John Wayne, I'm doing well, and thank you for the kind words and give me this opportunity to help advocate, educate, our teammates out there, military transitioning, and our veterans.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, so let's dig into you right away, man. So you spent 33 years in the Army. You made it to the pinnacle of the enlisted ranks and finished off your service in the Pentagon. So what was the motivation for you to want to join the Army and serve?
Well, John Wayne, thank you for that question. I'm a small town country boy from Tarboro, North Carolina, and I just wanted a better way of life. I grew up as a farmhand, had a stepfather that was abusive, and so I found a local recruiter because I wanted a better way of life, and I found it in the Army. I was just so proud and glad and grateful that I joined the Army.
Awesome. And so I assume when you joined for what, 4 to 6 years, somewhere in there, an initial enlistment?
That is correct. I thought it was going to be one term and I would be out of there, but I found a sense of purpose. I found a sense of belonging to a team. Just great people, great mentors, great leaders that I want to emulate. And I found that each echelon of leadership that I just wanted to do more for service members and wind up staying 33 plus years.
So when did the light hit you that you were going to stay in and be a career soldier? When did you realize that, yep, this isn't going to be just a one-time thing or anything? I'm going to stay and then I'm going to serve for as long as I can. When did that kind of hit you?
It probably hit me around the 8 to 10 year mark. I was a part of the 82nd Airborne Division, the American Guard of Honor, and I just feel like I belong to something bigger than myself. I love the esprit de corps, the camaraderie, and it was a way for me to provide for my family. And just coming from my small town and having opportunities, I had to travel and just to meet other people. It probably hit me around an 8 to 10 year period.
Awesome. And you mentioned the 82nd Airborne Division. What I failed to mention is that Ed, like me, is a member of the 82nd Airborne Division Hall of Fame. And it was so awesome to have you at the ceremony where I was inducted this year. So what did that mean to you when you got that call that you were going to be inducted into the prestigious 82nd Airborne Division Hall of Fame?
Well, I had to pinch myself. I couldn't believe that, I was being inducted and the panel and the selection member had chosen me. Really just when I served the 82nd Airborne Division, they did more for me than I could ever do for them. And so I was just extremely shocked and grateful and humble that I could be there, living and get my flowers and be able to celebrate my service with my other teammates in 82nd Airborne Division. And so glad that this year that Sherelle and I was able to be there and support you in your induction.
Yeah, that was awesome. Um, I got the call when I was out on a PT run in Ponte Vedra, Florida, and All-American 9, Sergeant Major Della Pena called me. And then you were right. It was, I had to pinch myself. I had to stop, hands on my knees, like, hey, is this really happening? And then what really, after the ceremony, when we had the dinner that night, just having a conversation with you and Tom Capel, two guys that I had served with who were also members of the Hall of Fame, it was just awesome. And then seeing all of the legends that kind of raised me, like Charlie Thorpe and Steve England and Felix Acosta, and guys like that. So it was truly awesome. Now, you served as a drill sergeant too, and tell me how tough that was, serving as a drill sergeant on the drill field.
Yeah, it was the most demanding and most rewarding job I had in the Army. Was to be able to help take civilians through a transition and make them a warrior. I mean, readiness star for our nation at our training base.
Yeah.
And it was just those 2 years was amazing. And I'm just so thankful and grateful for the opportunity. And some of my young soldiers are now sergeant majors, lieutenant colonels, and CW5s. So that's the legacy. And when they reach back and say thank you, and so it was just a great time in my life as a soldier, as a leader.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, you culminated your career as the Army G4 Sergeant Major, the Senior Logistics Non-Commissioned Officer in the United States Army. How was that duty? And then, being able to culminate your career in the Pentagon, how fruitful was that for you?
Well, number one, I was surprised that a dirty boot logistician, a paratrooper, got that opportunity to go inside the building. But here's what I learned. Being able to sit at a table where strategic perspective is applied across the million-man Army, it was a great honor, really, to be able to see the Army operate from the tactical, operational, and strategic level, and seeing it all come together. And the things that I learned, that strategy drive resources. And based off of that, the National Defense Strategy and all the other different directives that we get, how it all come together in that building. There's just a lot of smart and intelligent people that really make things happen for our nation.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so we're going to take a quick break here so we can hear from our sponsors. But when we come back, we're going to ask Ed about transition and what advice he might have for some folks through transition. Then we're going to get his take on some key leadership stuff. But before that, let's take a quick break and let's hear from our sponsors at Downrange Supplements.
Downrange Supplements. As the brand of the troops, we produce only the highest quality supplements conducive to mission effectiveness. Whether it's our fully dosed pre-workout, recovery and rehydration, or Mermite protein, it's time to continually improve your fighting position with Downrange Supplements. Go to www.downrangesups.com today and take your training to the next level.
Hey folks, welcome back to Leader Talk. I'm SEAC retired John Wayne Troxell. My guest today is retired Sergeant Major Ed Bell. Great warrior, great soldier, and still giving back. So, Ed, a lot of what you do now has to deal with transition, and you being a former nominative guy, can you kind of talk us through your transition and how you got to where you are now, where you are the Director of Government Affairs for the South Carolina Department of Veterans Affairs? And then what advice do you have for other nominative level sergeant majors as they go through their transition?
Well, John Wayne, thank you for that question. For my transition, I came in as a 19, 20-year-old man retired at 52. So for 33 years, I was told what to do, when to do it, what to wear. Life was gravy. Here's one thing I realized, that once I crossed the bridge of retirement and I look back, there was nothing there. And I realized that three things I had to count on was faith, family, and true friendship. In protocol, a lot of people say, I got you, I'll take care of you. But what you realize is, for me, once I crossed the bridge, there was no sponsor. So what I had to do was kind of reinvent myself. I had to start from ground zero and really try to, for me to find a civilian mentor, somebody who was already in the enterprise as a retired soldier who was being successful at what they was doing. And that was kind of like my transition. The other thing was, I realized that for me, my personal and professional stewardship as a soldier was my identity.
Yeah.
And once I crossed the transition bridge, I had to really hold myself accountable and look at myself personally and professionally and try to figure out what would be my purpose. And through doing that, I realized how important it was to build a network.
Yeah.
How important it was to find a civilian mentor. For me, I realized that trying to translate my military roles and responsibilities into a terminology that a civilian human resources person could understand was important. Also, realized how important it was to kind of regreen my skills and how I have conversations, how I would do, as I was kind of rehearse for interviews, things like that. I mean, of course, people like you and I in the normative world, we interview with flag officers at each echelon, but it's totally different when you're talking to a civilian.
Yeah.
It's totally different, and so those are the things that I had to learn.
Yeah. You mentioned something that I think is important, and it's when you leave this institution, especially for guys like you and I that have done it for over 30 years, and then you want to do something post-military, you can't look back. You have to look forward. And you also mentioned, looking for that mentorship and everything. But I think you have to continue to be a learning leader in what you're doing post-military life. So can you kind of describe what you're doing now at the Department of Veterans Affairs there in South Carolina?
Yeah, as the Director of Government Affairs for the state of South Carolina, what I do is advocate and legislate for our 390,000 veterans and almost 70,000 active duty military stationed in South Carolina. So what I do, I help the General Assembly put together legislation that provide resources for our veterans and our military. I testify, I do budget, and any type of resource from the government affairs perspective. I play a vital role in understanding the Secretary's intent and then being able to translate that to the General Assembly. And so it's very, very interesting in what I do, but it's very gratifying and rewarding just being able to advocate and legislate for resources to take care of our veterans and our active duty military. Absolutely love what I do.
Yeah, and what advice would you give veterans out there? I think we've got 18, 20 million veterans in the United States now, but sometimes you can just put them in two bins. There's those that are enablers and they want to do great things for the military and for their communities and everything. And then you got others that are agitators, that when they were in the military, everything was great. The minute they left, now everything's broken, everything. What advice would you give to those veterans that are negative, about this current force or whatever, and how they can be a proactive role in supporting other veterans and our current military? What advice would you give them?
So I'll put that in two parts. The first thing, you cannot hang your civilian success based off your last military assignment, right? You had to have ego management, expectation management, and have to be comfortable reinventing yourself and being able to articulate the skill sets that you have to make the organization better. So a big mistake that I see that we make is we look at our last military job and think that that's going to equate to our civilian success. So that's the first part.
Yeah.
I think we all play an important role to be ambassadors for the military and help, advertise what the military do for our nation, what the military did for us, right? And we are recruiters for our nation readiness by being a veteran, by still being active, and by leading by example. So I think we play a huge role in just being ambassadors for our nation based off our experience. Matter of fact, I saw a young man today who just graduated basic training and talked to him about what the military did for me and my family and how personally and professionally I grew over time by being a steward to the profession. So I believe we play a great role in being ambassadors to that 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old teenager out there trying to figure out what's next.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I couldn't agree more. And what advice would you have for current level sergeant majors? You kind of mentioned it, because you were whatever you were in the building or whatever job you did, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to walk out and all of a sudden be the CEO at Google or something like that, What advice would you have for them beyond, they got to still be learning and everything, especially in regards to how sometimes ego can come into play?
Yeah, so I talked about ego management, expectation management, and how you got to be able to see your blind spot. And you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable, reinventing yourself. And understand that retirement look different for everybody.
Yeah.
And as I kind of coach, teach, and mentor people that are transitioning out, I tell them the number one thing is your debt management. Income to debt ratio. It's important. And understand that all your entitlements like BH, separations, and all those other different entitlements stop. Right? So you have to be have a good understanding from a financial perspective and what works for you and your family. And you can't look at John Wayne Troxell and say, well, I should be able to do what John Wayne is doing, because John Wayne has a unique situation based off him and his family situation, right? So ego management, expectation management, being comfortable and being uncomfortable and recreating yourself. And then looking at how you can continue to give back. You can volunteer. You can move into the federal pace.
Yeah.
The state, or the personal private institution. But retirement look different for everybody.
Awesome.
And so that's the best advice that I can give the nominal level. And understand that out of the 100% of the people that you meet and work with, 5% will be there with you throughout the rest of your journey.
Oh yeah.
The 95% is going to move to the next person in charge. The thing that I learned is that the military is a leadership laboratory.
Yeah.
Right? They are creating your replacement right now. So don't take it personal. It's all about business.
That's awesome. I love it, man. I love it. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little leadership with Ed, get his take on what some key attributes are, especially to inspire young Americans that we were talking about here. as well as soldiers of today. But let's take a break. Let's hear from our sponsors at Downrange Supplements.
How you guys doing? I'm Colton Smith, and I'm announcing right now, Downrange Supplements is in your local commissary. If you're anywhere near a base and you have base access, get to the commissary and check out our pre-workout, our rehydration BCA formula, and our protein. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. It is the best in the market, and Listed 9 Fight Company, my brand, is partnered with Downrange Supplements for a reason, and I tell you, their products work. And also, don't forget, we kill suckers.
Hey folks, welcome back to Leader Talk. John Wayne Troxell here, your host, with my good friend as a guest, a former Command Sergeant Major of 33 years, and now Director of Government Affairs at the South Carolina Veterans Affairs, Ed Bell. Ed, welcome back. We've been talking a lot about transition and, your journey in the military. Now let's talk about leadership here. And what are some key leadership attributes that you think are necessary to inspire young people, especially young people of today, and to inspire soldiers, this generation of soldiers? What are some key leader attributes?
Yeah, for me, John Wayne, thank you for that question. Number one, lead by example. You got to know your own blind spots. We all have biases, but understanding your blind spot and how you manage your blind spot will make you a better leader. Your reputation and your credibility matters, right? A lot of times we say, well, I'm just good at my job and that's all that matters. No, your reputation and credibility, it matters, right? For me, it's better to be effective versus being efficient. Even now, I want to move the ball. I don't like the status quo.
Yeah.
So leadership at its core should be effective, right? It has to move the dial for the institution. One of the things that I learned, it's better to be a better listener than a talker. I will never forget, I was a young Command Sergeant Major, 3rd Special Forces Group. I walk into the room, right? I'll rank every ODA in there. I learned very quickly the power of understanding the group dynamics. I still use it now, right? So you have to be relevant when you speak, right? So the boss always said, Sergeant Major, is there anything you want to say? I learned that's protocol, right? So be relevant and add value to the conversation. Right? Be a student of your craft.
Yeah.
Right? Know your audience. Right? You can't talk to everybody the same and treat everybody the same. You got to know your audience. Right? You got to be concise and clear. One of the main things I think a lot of leadership miss, our job is to motivate and encourage people. We do that through treating them with dignity and respect. Right? And the baseline of senior enlisted leadership is standards and discipline. The same thing that I wanted 30 years ago is what every soldier still wants today. It's an attribute that we gotta sustain. It's about standards and discipline. And by soldiers watching us and wanting to emulate what they see, leverage the enterprise. And what I mean by that is by understanding all the teammates and the resources they provide, how do you integrate with them and utilize those resources to enhance readiness, for your team? It's just extremely important.
Yeah.
Right.
So what do you,
Taking it.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
So what do you what advice do you have for some of these leaders, especially mid-range non-commissioned officers, that are more focused on likership than leadership? They're looking to be popular, and maybe they're putting a little premium on the standards and discipline that you were talking about.
That's another great question. Number one is know what's important to your organization. And your job, just like my job was to be the master trainer of the organization, to be physically fit. Leadership started at first formation. You can't turn it on at 9 or 11:30. At the first formation, that's where you build cohesion. So if you're one of those leaders that are standing behind the formation, that is the wrong answer. Nobody expect a senior leader to outrun or do more push-ups than a brand new 18 or 19-year-old. But you have to be present, you have to be engaged, and you got to participate. It's just so important to understand that your job is to coach, teach, and mentor the young men and women who raise their right hand, right? So the blanket of freedom of democracy lies with a 17 to 21-year-old, and we call it America. And we owe them the leadership, right, to make sure we sustain and enhance and preserve the quality of life that we love so much as Americans.
Dang, man, we should have made that into a recruiting poster there. Man. That was good. You know. Okay, Ed, one last question, and then I'm going to allow you to give this week's Warrior shout out. So, how long are you going to keep going, man? You're enjoying yourself in the job now. You know, there are some of our peers that they retire and they want to go hunt, fish, golf, you know, ride a Harley, you know, start a garden or something like that. I don't do any of that stuff. So, you know, I enjoy my family like you do, but I'm having fun and I want to keep going. So what drives you to keep going, man, and to continue what you're doing now?
So number one is to always set a good example for my children. Even though I got 5 young men who are adults, setting an example for them is important to me. Setting an example in my community is important to me. Setting an example for the NCO Corps is important to me, right? There's life after the military. And so I love carrying the torch and letting our enlisted force know there's life after the military. John Wayne, I'm still getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning in the gym, right? I'm still pressing and ironing my clothes, you know, and checking the gig line. It's just a way of life for me. And I love it, and I have so much peace and purpose. And when I feel like there's a time for me to transition and slow down, I'm sure that Sherelle is going to let me know, hey, it's time to kind of tamper down and kind of slow down. But right now, I'm loving it. I never knew that after the military, that life could be so fun. But I found my purpose.
Absolutely. And that's why I wanted you on this show today, man, because you are the example for anybody that retires after over 3 decades in the military, and how you transition to what you're doing now and how you're giving back to the tens of thousands of veterans in the state of South Carolina. So I appreciate that. All right, Ed, we come to the part of our show now where we do our Warrior shout out. And anytime I have a guest on, I always allow the guest to give the Warrior shout out. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you and let you give the Warrior shout out today.
So I thought about this, and it came easy. It's my wife, Sherelle Washington Bell, an active duty property book officer at the 525 Expeditionary MI Brigade at Fort Liberty, North Carolina, a part of the mighty 18th Airborne Corps and great teammates of the 82nd Airborne Division. Sherelle has deployed 3 times, 2 to Iraq, 1 to Afghanistan. She served in TRADOC, Operation Army, and Special Operations. She speaks Dari, and just a super, super physically fit leader that I love so much.
That's awesome. And, well, that couldn't have said it any better. Sherelle, God bless you and your service. I will tell you, at the Hall of Fame dinner, Sandra had such an outstanding time having a conversation with you while, you know, Ed and I and Tom Capel were trying to save the world over there with our conversation and everything. But our shout out goes tonight to Sherelle Washington Bell. God bless her and her service. And that's it for the day, ladies and gentlemen. Ed, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and coming on today to be my guest. I really appreciate it, brother. And I look forward to dialoguing with you and interacting with you and seeing what we can do together to continue to help the troops, families, and veterans. So thanks a lot, my man.
Well, John Wayne, hey, thanks for having me on. But more importantly, you always set a great example for all of us to emulate. You led by example. You always spoke the truth to power, and you took care of people. So I'm very grateful and thankful to have this opportunity today to speak and hopefully can help our veterans and transition military. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. And to our audience, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget, if you like what you see on here, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also catch my book, Surrender or Die, Reflections of a Combat Leader, on Barnes & Noble and Amazon, or our website, pmehard.com. Thank you to our sponsors, Downrange Supplements. If you want to change your body, you want to get after a brand that supports the troops, go to downrangesups.com. So thank you all again. We'll see you soon for another episode of Leader Talk. Have a great time. Boom.